Welcome to the Parks and Rec Commission monthly meeting for Thursday, February 15th, 2024. Do I hit this? We are now in session, and if we could have a roll call, please.
Urban. Baber.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Mazu.
Here.
Raber.
Here.
Walker. Stidham.
Here.
Burnham.
Here.
Good. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Joey. Now, next up, let's welcome our newest commission member, Bill Burnham, please.
Ben Burnham.
Excuse me, Bill. Ben Burnham.
Whatever your name is.
Thank you for the correction there. Ben, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. My name is Ben Burnham. I'm currently the Associate Director for Facilities and Operations with Campus Recreation at Boise State. So I've served my entire career being in recreation. And then I also served in Fort Collins, Colorado on the Parks and Rec Commission prior. So hopefully have some things to add, but just super excited to work with you all in the community.
Thank you and welcome. Needless fact that you don't need to know, but I have a good friend from high school named Bill Burnham. So that's why it rolled off my tongue so easily.
Sure you do.
Yeah. All right. Next item up would be consent agenda items. Do I have a motion?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. On to item number 4, new business. We have the minutes from January 18th, 2024.
I move we approve the minutes.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments there? Motion to approve? Everyone? Aye?
Aye. Sorry. Yeah, I thought yeah,
Oh, sorry.
for the
sorry.
minutes.
All
Yeah.
those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
There we go. Thank you. All right. Next up would be the 2023 Boise Parks and Recreation Media Report, and that will be with Bonnie.
Oh, it's already on. I'm used to having to turn this thing on. I wanted to yell Bueller, Bueller. I'm also a B, so I'm used to, and I'm a twin, and she's Brittany, so I get a lot of B mix-ups. For those I haven't met, my name is Bonnie Shelton. I'm the Communications and Marketing Superintendent for Parks and Recreation. I just celebrated my 7th year with the department, which is wild. I'm sure Doug can't believe that that's real. Is this up, even though it's not up there? Okay, great. Thank you for that confirmation. And really, this presentation came about with some year-end conversations and kind of 2023 overview stuff that Director Holloway and I were going over, and we thought it would be interesting for you to get a little more behind the scenes on kind of what the city's overall approach is to media, telling stories about the work that we're doing, highlighting our employees, and then how that helps us meet our goals as far as filling our programs and making sure that people know we have scholarships. Just the wide range of things that we do. It's not all just ribbon cuts, although that is one of our favorite things, is when we get to open a new amenity for the community, and we had quite a few of those in 2023, the fountain being one of them at Ann Morrison Park. But before I jump in, my background, I actually was a former reporter, so I worked on TV for 7 years, so I'm exactly like bookends of my career so far, before I came to the city of Boise. So I used to be the one kind of getting all the pitches, calling, hey, Doug, can you meet me in Julia Davis Park for a quick interview because I don't have a story today. And so it's interesting kind of having been on both sides of the coin for this work. It really is a two-way street, and we view these relationships as something that's really important to help get information about things that are happening at the city and the work that we're doing, and really the value that we believe we bring to taxpayers and how we're using the money that we are given wisely. So I hope you just get kind of enough knowledge to be dangerous after this proposal, or presentation, I mean. So first, some definitions for you. There are 3 different categories of coverage that we talk about when we're doing this work. So paid media is probably the most commonly known. It's advertising, right? You're giving money to someone to talk about something that you are promoting. It could be a campaign, a product, a slogan. That's just kind of one bucket of this work. Earned media, which you'll hear me talk about a lot because it's really kind of the bulk of what we do. That's any coverage where we're being talked about, sometimes it's referred to as word of mouth, where we didn't pay for that coverage. So we're earning it. We're getting, coverage of our news releases that we're sending out. We've got influencers on social media here in town because yes, we do have them here in Boise, which blows people's minds sometimes, but we do. And then community recommendations, so people who interact with our staff, who come to our programs, who tell their friends, and then they come. That's all a part of that earned media bucket. And then owned media, so anything that we're creating and putting out into the world falls under this category. So our social media platforms and the content we put there, websites and web pages, and then the city has YouTube, so we have some video and things that we post there. Anything that we create, control, and post for free. It's just kind of background for you. We are a part of a larger city team. The work I do is in tandem with a lot of really smart and talented people. Many of them work in the community engagement office just across the hall. And we all work together. We meet weekly. We talk about strategy and kind of what the large stories will be for that week, for that month. We're constantly planning and trying to find ways that we can amplify what everyone is doing with that larger goal of creating a city for everyone. Really, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that people know there are accessible programs, there are ways for people to get involved no matter their background, their economic status. And we do have many shared initiatives and programs, and you'll see some of them listed here. We talk a lot about climate action. That's, a public works, parks, mayor's office. So we're all constantly working on things that kind of reach those messaging points. 10-minute walk to a park. We try to weave that in anytime we're talking about something new that we're opening or amenity that we're adding and really reach that goal. Community education, we do a lot of volunteer work. You'll learn more about that a little bit later and kind of how we're highlighting those programs, trying to fill them and make sure that we have the help we need and really build that community trust. And then the Pathways Plan and our America the Beautiful goals, which is really just pollinator habitat, planting trees, making sure that we are preserving 30% of land and water in the community for generations to come. And overall, we do have goals and objectives. We are a business at the end of the day. We have line items that we need to meet. And so that is something that we're thinking about as well. Is the outreach and the communication that we're doing, both from a media standpoint and internally, externally, are we meeting our budget goals? Are we increasing program participation? Are we meeting the business goals that are set for us as a department so that we can do the things that we do throughout the community? Are we doing a good job of encouraging community engagement? Are people taking the surveys that we're offering? Are they hearing about them in their community or their neighborhood? Do they know about open houses and ways that they can get involved and really have a say? We're educating residents about our projects, activities, and services. This is a constant, line through of everything that we're doing. And then promoting scholarship opportunities, making sure that people know they can take advantage of things that we're offering, even if they may not have the budget for it. We want to make sure that those are accessible and open. And creating awareness about community events. You think about the 4th of July and some of the other community events that we hold that are free for the community. We're doing a lot of promotion of that throughout the year as well. So paid media, this is probably the smallest of what we do. There is some budget for this that I have every year, but I really try to maximize it and use it when it's gonna have the biggest bang for our buck. Between my promotions and advertising line in the marketing budget, it's about $30,000 a year. It's not huge, but we really do try to make that last and go toward priority items and things that we really think that they deserve. So an example for last year was we started partnering with Boise Dev in their Idaho First newsletter, if you get that in your inbox every day. We did some digital ads with them for the winter spring activity registration, and it was very successful. We had a great click-through rate, and working with a local company, we really liked that partnership. I've known Dawn Day, who runs that, for a long time. So that was kind of a first-time try, and we're going to do it again for this summer because it worked so well, and I feel like it just helped kind of keep things top of people's mind when we opened registration. We do some advertising for the Senior Center every year. They have pretty targeted audiences, and there's one book that they have at all of the different facilities that we advertise in to make sure people know that we're open and, you know, a great community for people to get involved in if they're looking for friendship, services, those kind of things. And then radio ads have been a great kind of add-on for us, especially for campaigns like Muddy Trails, activity registration. We've partnered with Lotus, and we get kind of a big bang for our buck because they'll play our ads on multiple different stations that they run, like the X, the River, those kind of things. And if we have like a quick, you know, something catchy that we're just trying to keep in people's minds, Muddy Trails is a great example. That's been a good partnership for us as well. So we've run that pretty consistently over the last few years. Earned media, as I said, this is our bread and butter. These are the relationships that we're building with reporters and people out in the community who can help share our stories. And again, I can't say enough about how lucky I am to work with this team at Boise Parks and Recreation. Our staff is really what keeps everything going. They are the people that interface with our users and our customers. They're building those relations on a daily basis. And so I really feel like I'm just trying to help make sure I funnel things to the right places, but they're doing this day in and day out, whether they realize it or not. Just an interesting tidbit, we sent 22 news releases in 2023, about 2 a month, which is pretty high. We're probably one of the biggest groups pushing out information at the city, and again, we coordinate with community engagement and the other communicators across the city all the time. There are things that we don't utilize a news release for, so I'm sure that number could be higher, but we really try to be very specific about what we're sending out, because I want the people who are on that media list to know, okay, something's coming out, it must be important or something we really need to share with the community. And of course, our focus is always, you know, transparency about projects, project updates, education about programs. If we need to fill, you know, some volunteer spots or there's a way for the community to get involved, we utilize this channel. And then again, our overall goal is always telling stories and really trying to make sure people understand why we're doing what we're doing and what the value is to the community for that work. And then this is an interesting look at, just take it with a grain of salt. We use a critical mention service for the city where we can track media mentions basically on the news, in the radio, on social media. And it's really hard to do that for just like Boise Parks and Recreation. That's such a broad topic. So we tried a couple different ways, and honestly, the best way to pull something for our department was to search Doug's name. So I searched Doug Holloway for 2023 with the help of community engagement. And you can see there we had 482 total mentions, and this isn't by any means comprehensive. There's things that are going to get missed in that because we have other people in our department who are really good spokespeople for what they do, and I utilize them all the time. But with an estimated publicity worth $4.1 million, if we had paid for every single one of those mentions or placements, which if we're even anywhere in the ballpark of that number, that's great. But just, again, the value that we have and we really don't take for granted in the community. It's just an interesting way to kind of look at that. And wins for our department last year, we had great coverage of the Idaho Youth Adaptive Sports Camp, which brought some new people to that program, multiple stories on volunteer activities and our team's environmental research that they're doing out in the community, which often happens behind the scenes. And then events like the 4th of July, our Boise Depot tours are busy every Sunday, which trying to keep something like that going every weekend in and out is really cool to see that program doing well. And then our scholarships, of course, we had a record year for scholarship programs last year. So we really feel like we're making headway and making sure people know that's available to them. Ridge to Rivers, this is another kind of brand, I guess you could say, that we oversee, an important partnership for the city and the Treasure Valley. we help oversee all of their communications because the city is the lead agency. And this is one where we are trying to share the same message constantly from like November to now May. It's gotten lengthier, the Muddy Trails season, but 500 total mentions. I have to give David Gordon and his trail team and Lisa Duplessis, who oversees our open space division, they are great partners in talking about these things with the media, with residents, trail users, and we've had really great response to our earned media efforts in this arena. And we're just kind of staying the course, slow but steady, sending out trail report notifications, utilizing social media, and it's slowly, I think, really starting to pay off. And you saw we did close some additional trails this year, and the response we got to that announcement and the coverage of it, I think really helped people understand why we had to make that tough decision. So to me, that's always great when we can really explain this may be inconvenient, but here's why we're doing it and making these tough decisions. Float the Boise, if you've been around, you've heard me talk about this and present to you. This was a new initiative for us last year, so to see the estimated publicity worth for that is really great. We didn't have an advertising budget for this program when we launched it. It was all earned and owned media. And so we're really proud of kind of the first splash that we did, and we're going to be trying to build on that this year with some additional resources, some video products that we're going to be putting out to hopefully get those safety messages across even more. And so we'll be putting a little bit more budget behind this year, but it was cool to see kind of what we can do, kind of just pulling up our bootstraps and going out there and utilizing the relationships that we've built. And then we end with Zoo Boise, which I think is a really interesting case study. This is a brand that I don't think most people even realize is a part of Boise Parks and Recreation out in the community, or maybe they kind of know that but don't really know how it operates or runs. The zoo team is incredible, and they are very good at making sure people understand, the conservation impact that you have when you visit the zoo. They've made changes in recent years that I think have really been beneficial, talking about animal care. 1,396 total mentions in a year and an estimated publicity worth of $42.6 million. Again, take it with a grain of salt, but that is incredible to have that brand kind of within our purview and to know that those messages are really getting out there, and we're talking about just how much they care for the animals and the things that they are doing day in and day out, which aren't always pretty. And they have such a high estimate, I think, because of their conservation work globally. We have a great partnership with Gorongosa National Park. They're getting mentions not only here locally, but across the globe for the work that they're doing, and they have great partnerships that really help tell those stories. So I work with a couple people, Jeff and Chris over at the zoo, and we really try to do the best we can to make sure that we're telling great stories, we're in the right places, and they do have some paid media budget through the Friends of Zoo Boise that they utilize throughout the year as well, but it's been really cool to see how that has grown over the last few years. And owned media, if you follow us on Facebook or Instagram, which please do, we have really invested in the last 7 years. And if you're, I always talk about this, like if you're not there, someone else is. And we've really seen it as a cool and creative way that we can engage younger audiences in the things that we're doing. We can have more of a personality and use humor and also teach you something along the way. And it's been really cool to see how we can utilize that growth, both here in Parks and Recreation and on a citywide level. I work really closely with Elizabeth and Taylor, who help run City and Mayor Social. We're constantly collaborating, kind of talking about what our themes will be, sharing ideas, and they've been very instrumental in helping us get to 34.5 thousand followers on Instagram, which is pretty wild when you think about it's just kind of mixed into the things we're doing every day. But we really do view it as a way to have another customer service line with the people who are visiting our parks, coming to the zoo, using the trails. We answer questions. We try to be available, on weekends when people are like, hey, is this splash pad on? We get comments and questions coming through, and so we take that seriously. And it's just fun. We've been using it in some new ways, which I'll talk about in a little bit, that I really think has made it more of a team focus and not just something that we're posting stuff for people externally, but we're using it for our employees too. And so that's been fun to see. And you'll see Ridge to Rivers, that's the R2R on there. That's kind of our acronym for Ridge Traverse. But they have 24,000 followers on Facebook. That's nothing to shake a stick at. They've been super consistent with posting their daily trail reports. That is now kind of what we do on a every winter basis, and it's a lot of work, but they've owned it, and I really appreciate them for using their expertise in that way, and people have come to rely on it, which is great. Publications, you know, the activity guide comes out 3 times a year. We're going all digital for the first time this summer, which is huge. But we've been listening to our users, we've been improving the online experience, and we really think that this is a process improvement that not only saves the department money, but it's where we should be. People should have a better experience, and if they want to print it off, that's great, and we'll have resources for our users if they would like that. But it's a big shift for us and something that we've been talking about potentially doing just from an environmental standpoint. Across the industry, this is pretty standard, so we're excited to see how it goes for this summer. And you'll see a lot of communications about that coming from us in the next month or so. Maps and brochures that we hand out and give to the community. And then our website. This is a huge tool for us, and I want to go to this next page. If you visited cityofboise.org/parks, and if you scroll down, we've been utilizing these kind of project web pages for the last few years and honing in on how we can make that a really user-friendly experience. But it's been helpful for us because when people call or maybe they see some work starting across the street and they're wondering, you know, what's happening over there? If you go to our website, we have all of these pages set up with our current projects. So we are posting updates about, you know, they're adding irrigation lines at Primrose Park. The Esther Simplot Bridge project is getting closer to completion. We meet with Sarah's team, who you're going to hear from, weekly to kind of get project updates. They're super communicative with us and allow us to really keep these pages updated, which is great. And it's great for our internal team too, because if they're getting calls at the front desk, they know exactly where to go. It's going to be updated. We're all singing from the same songbook and giving the users a way better experience than getting forwarded to like 3 different people and finally getting the project manager. And it's really helped not only cut down on calls, but community members can be our advocates too. You know, they're like, oh, I just saw they're starting this project, you know, here's the next steps, it's supposed to be done this time. So this has been a really cool feature, and if you go on the page, we have a lot of projects happening right now, and it's changing all the time. So if you ever have a question, start here, and I bet it will hopefully help answer it. And then just to kind of give you some perspective on how we measure success, it can be very difficult to know what your return on investment is for earned media or, you know, owned media, things that we're putting out. Like, is it really working? And for us, as we talk about it, both as a department and a city, we really want to foster that reputation for quality. When people are coming to us to take a class or putting their kid in camp, we want to make sure that we are providing, obviously, a great service and experience, and I want to make sure that we're really taking that seriously. So we try to tell those stories when our team does a good job, and we use it as a transparency tool, maybe when we didn't do the best job that we could have, but we're committed to making it better. And I really appreciate that kind of leadership from Director Holloway and the team, really being willing to be open about what we're experiencing, what we're seeing, and sharing that with the community through our media coverage. We had record-setting activity registration in 2023. All 3 registration periods, we blew our first day numbers out of the water. And that's comparing it to pre-COVID, which is also really cool to see that we are kind of back. We're running, you know, full speed ahead, but people are liking our programs, they're signing up, they're getting involved, and that just allows us to keep doing more and more in the community, which is really cool. And then increased participation in our surveys and open houses. A great example is the Ridge Traverse survey, which you heard about. We had more than 3,400 people take that survey, which is great. We're doing a McDevitt master plan update, and we had over 800 people take the initial survey, which is great. That's like 10% of everyone that we notified, which is a great goal to meet. Well-attended events. You know, we're always trying to track changes in behavior. The Muddy Trails is a great example of that. Like, is it working? Are people staying off? You know, where could we be improving this and meeting people where they're at? Additional media storytelling opportunities, and then just consistent, steady growth on those social media platforms and places where, you know, it may not be that we're jumping a huge amount of followers, but every year we're making little inroads and getting more people involved, getting information to them in unique ways. And maybe they're hearing it multiple times in multiple places, and that's helping reinforce that, which we always strive to do too. And last but not least, if you follow us on social, you may have seen that we've been highlighting more of our employees. This is kind of a new campaign and approach for us, and it's taken a little convincing for some of these teams, but again, I mentioned we have people who are out in the field every day who are taking care of kids, who are running great volunteer programs, who are doing really cool work that may happen a lot of the times behind the scenes. And so we really want to use our owned media channels to tell their stories and really show that everyone who works here at the City of Boise really does care and puts their heart and soul into everything that they do. And it's been so cool. I've had people from our department reach out and say, I didn't even know Robert worked for us, and I loved learning about his work in the cemetery. Or, Martha's great, and I learned about a cool project that I didn't even know she was working on in the foothills. So we're gonna be doing this throughout the year, and I just think it's been a really positive way to then have some feedback to share with our teams. Like, there may be tough days, tough times, but the community really does appreciate everything that you do. And this is one way where I feel like all of the work that we've been doing to build up these channels and these outlets, it's paying off, and it's been really cool to see how we've been able to kind of turn it back around and shine a light on the people that we work with every day. And that's all. I got to use a photo from the Molinar Skate Park opening that I have never gotten to use before, so that's why that's there. I can take any questions if you have any.
Mr. President, Commission members, I just want to thank Bonnie for the work that she's done over the last 7 years for our department. Her job is to take all the great things we're doing and just get them out there, show the public what we're all about, build that brand and that image that we have in the community of being a caring department, and the fact that we have the following that we have is amazing. It's almost as large, it's probably the largest of a lot of different organizations in the community, including the city as a whole. And so, but it also shows how interested people are in the work that we're doing and the work that this board does. But she is able to navigate things for us and make sure that we're staying out of trouble, I guess is the best way to put it. She does all of our messaging. She does all of our planning efforts when it comes to how we roll out our media. And so it's really an invaluable position. But to see the results of some of the dollar value that we're getting and the creativity we use to get that, it's pretty amazing stuff. So, and if we had to buy all that stuff, I mean, it would be obviously cost prohibitive, but more than the cost prohibitiveness of that, it's just the exposure that we have in the community. So it builds trust, and it also allows us to engage the community in efforts of planning and when we're trying to do things like close trails. We know we have a captive audience when we're doing that. The McDevitt thing, doing that master plan open house, to have 800 folks respond to a survey for a smaller development that we're doing out there is pretty amazing as well. So anyway, nice work. And we just wanted to get this in front of the commission so you kind of see what's happening in our world when it comes to our public relations stuff.
Great, thank you, Bonnie. That was amazing, and I really like the part about sharing personal stories about employees, and that's building, human capital that is priceless these days. And so, keeping people together and engaged and happy will benefit you for a long time, and everyone in the community. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Makes your job easy when your employees are happy, right? All right, next on the agenda is item C, the Parks Project update, and Super Sarah is going to lead us in that presentation. Thank you.
Well, thank you, commissioners. I'm happy to be here. My name's Sarah Arkle, otherwise known as Super Sarah. I am the Parks Resources Superintendent, so I have the privilege of running the team that plans, builds, and maintains our parks, our greenbelt, and a number of other wonderful assets across the city. So in the vein of giving you a little insight into what we're up to, I thought I'd share some project updates this afternoon. Not too much going on. That was sarcasm. We've got a lot going on, actually. We're pretty excited. This winter has been mild, which has allowed us to continue to roll on some projects. A few recent developments to share with you. We have been working on partnerships with the Harry Morrison Foundation and the Boise River Enhancement Network to execute a couple of projects that we would not have been able to do on our own. The foundation has a long-standing history with the department in planning and funding improvements to Ann Morrison Park. It's one of our signature parks, as you're all very well aware. We opened the fountain there last summer and were blown away, frankly, with the use. And this next year, thanks to the Harry Morrison Foundation, we are going to do a project that's long overdue. If you've been to Ann Morrison Park in the last, 15 years, there's a clock out there that just is not working anymore. It was originally placed, probably 40 years ago, and refurbished to a digital clock maybe 20 years ago, and it just needs an overhaul. The foundation is committed to maintaining the historic value of the clock and considering, ways to rehab it and relocate it so that it becomes more of a integral feature of the park, and the park's history is a mid-century park. So we may see some changes to the face. It might go back to an analog. We may see if we can make it solar, and you may see it change its location from where it currently is in the sports fields to the circular turf area near the fountain. So the Harry Morrison Foundation is donating that work to us and will then donate the amenity back to us once it is refurbished and relocated. Similarly, we have a wonderful partnership with the Boise River Enhancement Network. They have worked in Kristen Armstrong Municipal Park with us in the past on bank restoration efforts, and we will be embarking on that again here this next spring. They have raised funds from a grant to shore up the bank and protect a critical asset from further erosion, our greenbelt. So there's a section of greenbelt that goes through Kristen Armstrong Park, and the bank stabilization will help preserve that section of greenbelt moving forward. So those are two things that went before council, two agreements that went before council last week. I wanted to make sure you were aware that we've got a couple of great partnership projects coming up. Primrose Park development, it has finally broken ground. This is wonderful, wonderful news for Northwest Boise and a long time coming. You may recall this is a property off of Gary Lane, and the design is complete. Obviously, bid's done, construction has started, irrigation is underway, and it's going to add 660 households to our 10-minute walk goal. Just as a reminder, this is what the master plan for the park looks like. So you'll see there's a playground and a fitness station, a shelter, a walking path, an open play area, and direct access to the neighborhood off of Toby Court. So if you find yourself on Gary Lane, please stop by, take a look, and see how progress is going. We should be complete, I think, with this park by the fall. Ivy Wild Parkscape Spot. This is another great project that I'm super excited is underway. We are at complete drawings. We've been working with Grindline to create a small skate spot, which basically just adds some features for skaters. It's not as big as Molinar, right? It's not as big as Rhodes or even Fort Boise. It's just a location where folks can learn some skills and then hopefully transfer those skills to a larger location. We're expected to break ground next month. So that's another one, if you're out in the neighborhood, take a look. And finally, the linear park and pathway at West Goddard Road. You'll recall this project was funded through open space levy dollars this last fall, I believe. This park and linear pathway is I'd say unique in that it's a wonderful opportunity where we have been able to partner with a irrigation canal district, Settlers, to acquire property that was surplus for them. They gave it to us. And we're going to be able to build a connection through this linear pathway that would eventually take us from Spalding Ranch to Hyatt Lake. So this is a key puzzle piece. The project's under contract. We're in the process of getting our permits. The contractor's in the process of getting his permits. And construction is expected to begin in late March. And I expect we'll have a groundbreaking, and obviously we'll invite all of you to attend and participate in that celebration. Peasley Street connection. This one is right above Ann Morrison Park. It is a needed bicycle and pedestrian connection from the bench down into the park that takes you off of, Americana or Capitol Boulevard. I think for those of you who were not on this commission when we brought this forward as a plan, this was another one that was funded through the Open Space and Clean Water levy funds. And it will add over 1,700 households to our 10-minute walk. It's about 900 steps, 900 linear feet of steps. There will be a bike runnel so that if you're on your bike and you want to get down into the park and onto the green belt, you won't have to hoof it necessarily. You can put it in the runnel and walk on down. We worked with the community to improve some accessibility and inclusion upgrades to make it easier for folks with visual impairment. And we're really excited to see this. This is underway right now. So again, if you find yourself up on the bench near Peasley Street, please stop, take a look. If you're in Ann Morrison Park, it will be close to the ball fields. So we'd love to have you stop by, take a look, and ask any questions you might have. Oh yeah, well, we had a big snowy January, didn't we? Our team, and maybe you don't know this, we've got a group of folks who get up at 3:30 in the morning to get downtown to clear the sidewalks of snow so that the business of Boise can continue. We participate as a team. There's a call-out list, so there's weeks when I'm on snow watch, there's weeks when a maintenance tech is on snow watch, and we all participate in supporting that program because we understand how essential it is for Boise to be able to function, for folks to get to work, for businesses to be open. So we just wanted to give a little shout out to the team. We after January was over and everybody had a minute to breathe, we did celebrate with breakfast burritos a couple of weeks ago, provided our team with a little lunch or a little breakfast as a thank you for being available and doing the essential work. So it was beautiful, but it was hard work. So I'm happy to answer any questions about any of the projects I brought up today or anything you might have questions about lingering. And thanks for your time.
Thank you, Sarah. Any questions?
Mr. President, I have a question.
Yes.
I'm a bench person and a frequent Ann Morrison user, so everyone's super excited about the connection. How does the bike piece work? Because we were looking at that the other day and I didn't understand it.
You mean the word runnel doesn't just easily?
Potentially.
It's basically a groove on the side. So if you were riding your bike up to this intersection, you would put the wheels of your bike in this groove, hold onto the handle or the seat, and walk it down. And it's not something we have here locally, but it's something that you would see in other cities where there's a lot of hills. But we've heard good feedback from other folks who have used it in other cities, and I'm hopeful that it will be very useful for our community as well.
Cool, thank you. And again, that connection piece, especially Capitol, is so rough. You kind of get stuck there, so it's really exciting.
Yeah, this was a community-led project, community-driven project, and we're really excited to execute it.
Mr. President, Commission members, I do want to point out if there's anybody online that we haven't been advancing the slides. It hasn't been coming through. Oh. So all they see is your lovely picture, Sarah, and before you, Bonnie. And but you did such a great job, both of you, in describing what's on the slides. I think you were perfectly fine with that. But I just want to point that out for those listening. We're aware that we're not seeing those slides. I did want to point out a couple other things too. When you talked about the team and the thank you, also want to point out that this is a team that also does all of the sidewalks and walkways, not all of them, but all the key ones in all of our parks. And this is the group that also goes out and makes sure the greenbelt is cleared top of morning, so those commuters, and believe it or not, there are a lot of bicyclists that still use the greenbelt in the middle of winter when there is a snowstorm. And I know that for a fact because we heard from a huge number of those that said, thank you so much. I was shocked when I went out and saw that, you know, the greenbelt was actually cleared and I could take my bike and make my way into town. So I wanted to make sure we pointed that out. The other thing that Sarah didn't go over here, and we're happy to bring it back to you, is we also have a very large number of major repair and maintenance projects we do. And those are all in Sarah's, with Sarah's team too, led by her leadership. So that's another, she didn't even touch upon those. She just really focused on the main capital projects we have going on now. But we have a whole bunch of major repair and maintenance projects we're doing now. And we also have several for the 25. So I think it'd be a good time to also do an update on those for you as well. But if you are a frequent flyer in Julia Davis Park, we have a major parking project that we'll be undertaking there, so be patient with us. It's going to take until about June-ish before that project is completed, but this just gave you the real projects that, you know, park related, but there are some really important major repair and maintenance ones that we're doing as well. So great job by your team, Sarah. We appreciate the work. They take great pride and have great passion in the work that they do, and it shows with all these projects. And so just keep up the great work.
And commission members, Director Holloway, I'm sure I'll be back this spring with some more project updates as we embark on some of those major repair and maintenance projects that we're getting our design completion done now. So happy to keep coming forward and telling you about the great work we're doing. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, with that, I don't believe we have executive session, correct? So we can take a motion for adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Have a good night, everyone.
And I do want to point out, we do have a sit-in president. I forgot to mention that. He's done
you
it a couple of
didn't
times over the
notice.
years, and we needed him to sit in today and gave him a call this afternoon. So thank you, Commissioner Raber, for stepping up to the plate once again for us. We appreciate that.
You bet.